Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Accelerator. I am Michael Conniff, your host. We're a podcast dedicated to founders, entrepreneurs, startups, and the money people, the angels, the VCs, the finance firms and the family offices, I should say, that kind of make the whole ecosystem happen. I want to remind you we're available on Spotify and YouTube, audio and video. You can get and sign up for our Substack newsletter. Goes out to over 8,000 people. And you can also follow us by subscribing, ranking, rating, and liking us on all the platforms: Apple, Audible, Amazon, and about a half dozen more. Today, we're really excited to welcome to the Accelerator Mario Tarouca, who is the COO and co-founder of FrameDrop.ai. How did I do with your name, Mario?
Perfect, Michael. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect enough, anyway.
Really good.
Good to have you. You're coming from us to us from Portugal. Where in Portugal are you?
Yeah, I'm currently in Portugal, more specifically in Lisbon, where I'm based now. Yeah,
Oh, okay. And how
sunny,
is the
beautiful
startup?
Lisbon.
I love the way you say it, Lisbon. How is the startup scene in Lisbon?
Yeah, I mean, it has been growing over the past 10 years, definitely. There's been a huge push from the government, the public authorities for sure. We have been seeing also a lot of startups moving their teams into Lisbon and Portugal overall, but more specific to Lisbon, because let's be honest, like we have a really cool country, like great food, weather, people, infrastructures,
Oh, now
and
you're
so
bragging. Bragging. Okay, that's all right. Go ahead and
just
brag.
telling my
Brag on
fish, yeah,
Portugal.
yeah,
So,
but I
so
mean,
seriously, it is a great place
yeah.
for a startup for founders.
No, definitely it is because the ecosystem is been growing a lot over the past, as I was saying, 5 to 10 years. You have a lot of accelerators, incubators, a lot of different programs
Mhm.
across different industries. You also have a VC scene uh, getting mature for sure, and so we are seeing like the ecosystem growing a lot. We have an idea. We are a country of around 10 million people, and we have, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 7 unicorns already from Portugal. So this
Oh, is that
gives
right?
a perspective
Okay.
on how the scene has been developing. Yeah.
Okay, I'm becoming convinced, and I once was going to visit Portugal, and I have never disclosed this publicly. I was on the bus to the airport when I realized my passport had expired,
Oh,
so I never got to Portugal, unfortunately. But it's on the list. It's on the list. We still have our tickets,
I
so maybe we were
definitely
thinking of going
recommend
this
you. Yeah.
fall. But yeah,
Yeah.
it would be really fun. So startup scene is good there. So tell us about Frame Drop and how it got started.
Sure. So I know JD, my co-founder, since 10 years ago. We met each other in the University of Coimbra, where we both studied. And so I study management. My background is management growth, and JD is like the developer, and so he's the code guy, the coding guy here. And to be honest, like he
He's what
started
we
it
call
by
the
himself,
technical founder, right?
technical founder. Yeah, exactly. And so he started it, let's say more or less 2 years and a half before and ago, because he's a gamer himself. So he plays Call of Duty, Warzone, and so in the beginning he just wanted to find some of his best plays back then. And so being a technical founder himself, he created an algorithm that would find the best moments on his game and rounds. And so from that point on, this developed. And after 3 to 6 months, he was developing that. He was having some challenges distributing these and marketing these to different users. And so he just gave me a call. Again, as I said, we knew each other from 10 years before. So I just started to drop some ideas, to exchange some ideas with him. And eventually, after 3 4 months of this process, I decided to join him as a full-time co-founder. And yeah, this was 2 years more or less ago. And after that, we did all this journey. Um, yeah, in the beginning, we decided to fundraise, and so we were just the two of us, like a product still a young, not mature product yet, like with few customers and paying ones, and so we decided to fundraise so we could bring more people on board, and this is what we did. So November 2022, we fundraised approximately 1.2 million dollars. This is with the lending investors being Portuguese. We actually have one American US investor already on our cap table from that round. And so last year, we then the first quarter, the goal was to set up the team, to create. So we hired some people, and last year then the goal was to develop the product, and this is where we are now. Yeah,
Yeah. So let's be very specific about what frame drop does. You said it was invented
yeah,
basically by your co-founder, your technical
yeah,
co-founder, who wanted to find the, I guess, would you say the best parts or the most interesting parts of video
yeah.
games embedded within, within what is essentially a data feed, right? So how does frame drop work as a commercial business? What is it trying to do? What problem is it solving?
Right, right. So again, we started with gaming and Twitch more specifically. Nowadays, we are more than that. So, beginning of this year, we decided to integrate with YouTube also, and so we started to process a new different content, what we call like talking content. And so nowadays, imagine this podcast, this episode we are recording. Afterwards, like after post editing it, what we can do is actually run it through our algorithms and go on framedrop.ai and just easily upload this episode or just add a YouTube URL, and we will automatically process it within 2-3 minutes, and we'll find the best moment. So like snippets of 30 to 60 seconds. And then the goal from that point on is, okay, this is imagine like an horizontal like way of recording it, and then we want to turn it into vertical. We eventually want to add some subtitles to remove the add like the filler words, the silent moments. And so by doing this, we can then have for every 30 to 60 minutes of podcast episode, we end up with 3, 4, 5 different snippets. And so then what podcasters and producers can use this for them, then they go to social media, to TikTok, to Reels, they can publish them. And so this way you can increase your community and attract eventually more people and use this as a snippet, like a teaser for people to discover this content, right? And so then you can redirect them to Spotify, YouTube, and all the podcast
And
platforms.
do you do any distribution of the video or the
So
podcast?
currently, so for the podcast itself, we are not distributing the podcast, but what we do is we already integrate with some social media, and so by editing the clip on our platform, you can already directly publish them on the social media. Yeah,
From your platform. So that means that you're juggling different formats. An Instagram format is going to be totally different
exactly.
than a Facebook format. So you have to
Then a TikTok or a short
versus
format,
TikTok.
exactly.
So you have to your algorithm, I guess, makes those decisions.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we identify.
Okay.
Um,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically we just to add that we identify the best moments, and also we ask our user what kind of format do you want? Do you like, because some podcasts are like B2B and they have a brand behind that they want to position themselves on LinkedIn. And so if perhaps that's not like a vertical, it's more like horizontal because a lot of people consume LinkedIn on desktop. But then if you are like a B2C or like a content creator and you want to position yourself on shorts on TikTok, then you want to verticalize. And so it depends on the kind of content you have and on what kind of specifications you prefer.
So this is going to be, and I want to point out to our listeners that and our viewers, we have both that while we record this, we're experiencing a little bit of lag time technical lag time. So if there's some awkward pauses, that's why. It's not that we don't know what to say, it's that we can't
Yeah.
quite hear each other in real time. So, having said that, so the algorithm that began in a video game environment, you're now applying it to podcasts. So, are podcasts your target market?
Yes. So now we are focused on creating more and more features to podcasts. Also, we are seeing some traction, early traction already from radio stations because there's an overlap of what on how actually the process of all these edition process and then the distribution from podcast and the radio program or radio show. So we are also seeing some traction there. But yeah, that's our targets,
So,
main
radio and
target.
podcasting. Why did you choose? Why Mario? Why did you choose podcasting and rather, more generally speaking, audio as what you wanted to go after first with your company?
So I lost you here, but I guess your question was if we were looking
Yeah, let
at.
me. Yeah, in other words, you went
Right.
with podcasts and radio. So you chose audio. You could have done video. You could have stayed in video games. What made you choose audio as kind of like a focal media for you to concentrate
Yeah,
on?
Yeah, to be honest, we are still focusing on audio and video. So the two of them combined,
Okay.
because
Okay.
although the majority of podcasts are only audio only, like 30 to 40% of them already integrate video. And the same thing with radios. Some of them already have cameras installed in their studios, and so they already capture this video. But it's true that more than half of these are audio only, and so there's an opportunity there. This is eventually a new product that we are working on, which is to for these contents that are audio only. Imagine if we could create audio into video, and so they could then open all these doors and publish on TikTok, on Shorts, on Reels, etc. Because nowadays they are audio only, and so sometimes they are limited to the ways they can promote themselves.
So when you say turn the audio into video, does that mean is that merely a formatting issue, or does that change the product in some way?
So, in terms of what we are looking at here is the input would be an audio that then it's speech to text like a transcript. Then what we can do is adding a sound wave or adding like a logo from that brand or adding an image or several images from the speakers or adding a b-roll footage being already created or an AI specific created for that use case, adding a frame around the video. So there are different things that we can do here into to like add different small things and create a video just from these audio that it's happening, right?
And what countries are you in so far beyond Portugal?
Yeah. So to be honest, we are a global platform, but we are seeing a lot of traction, mainly from the US. So you have an idea, like 50% of our customers are from the US and also UK. And then it's like a long tail of other countries. I was just seeing like we are present in more than 40 countries when it comes to paying users already. So then it's a long tail, but mainly US and UK. Yeah.
And how many users do you have right now?
So we have more than 20K, 20,000 users. Not all of them are paying because we also have a free version. So just to leave a teaser here, our free version, we have a freemium product, right? And our free version and plan, it's really generous. So you have an idea, it's like 8 hours of processing video that you can add per month. And so let's say that you have a podcast of 1 hour every week. This is something that you can use for sure, the free version. Then if you want to use some specific features, eventually those some of those might be pro, and then you need to upgrade. This is how our business works.
And what do you think? So the is that really the sole source of your revenue? Are the stations or the podcasters paying you at all? I mean,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
So you're getting paid by them, but that's your revenue stream, right?
exactly. currently our only revenue stream, it's we are SaaS, so they are paying us a monthly subscription to use our product. Yeah.
Okay, and are you going to stick with that for the foreseeable future?
Yes, I would say we are comfortable with this business model. Of course, we have other ideas on how to um, make some revenue and other revenue streams. But as you know, on startups, we always have limited resources, and so we want to focus and make sure that we go after each of these ideas, yeah,
So,
step
how
by
do you
step.
get the word out about Frame Drop? What kind of ways are how are people finding you?
Yes, Michael, I
How are
couldn't hear.
people
Sorry.
finding you? How are they
Yeah.
finding Frame Drop, and how are they finding you now?
Yeah, so we have different ways. We tested different ways over the last months. What we are seeing that actually works for us is partnering with content creators. So we have different content creators from Twitter to TikTok to Instagram or even LinkedIn. And these people basically talk about our products. And what we are seeing, surprisingly, and it's good news for us, what we are seeing already is that more and more people organically are already sharing their thoughts about us. And normally, if not all the time, these are positive thoughts. And so they are starting to recommend organically. This is what we call word of mouth, right? Electronic word of mouth, if you want. And
Yes,
so
yes.
it's
Word of
really
mouth.
interesting.
Word of
Yeah,
mouth, the universal language. Um,
yeah,
we all understand that. So, in fact, Sam Waltman said the best way to have a viral product is have a product so great that your friends want to tell their friends. That's how you have a
yes,
viral
exactly.
product. You just have a
Yeah,
great product everyone wants to know about. So, how do you scale this? Is there any plan? Podcasting is still pretty young, despite what you might think, Mario. It hasn't been around a long time, right? It's new.
yeah,
I think the first one I listened to was Bill Simmons, a sports podcast called the BS Report in 2007. That might have been one of the very first ones. So we're looking at something that's less than or 15 years old or so, still
mhm,
fairly young. How much runway do you have in terms of how big this could get? And you will have competitors, right? So how do you manage that? How do you navigate that as you go forward?
right. So in terms of macro trends, what we are seeing is that, as you're saying, like podcasts are not are relatively new. I'd say they are here already for some years, but the trend that we are seeing is that they are growing year over year. And now we are at something like 4 million podcasts being created this year. And out of these 4 million, 1.4 are from the US. So one out of three of podcasts being created right now are from US creators. So that's why also the importance of this market and why we are there, right? And yeah,
Is
go
there
ahead.
any do you have any data on what despite beyond just sort of growth, like what kind of podcasts are people doing, and has that changed in the last few years?
So um, what I see is that there are a lot of different like there's a lot of um, categories and different types of podcasts. You have things like entrepreneurship business, like the one that we are right now, or you have things like true crime, or politics, or sports, or comedy, or I don't know, just so many different things that you actually have niches and subcategories within these categories. So there's a lot of things
Yeah,
being
there
created
should.
right now.
So I'm particularly, as a former radio person, did a talk show for 6 years, political talk show in Aspen, Colorado. Really enjoyed that, but left feeling like radio, it's not going to die, but it was sort of limping along. Is there a way for podcasts, other than creating a new revenue stream? Is there a way for podcasts to rejuvenate radio?
Definitely. That's something that, for instance, we are already seeing some countries like Brazil. they are really advanced when it comes to this. And you can see, and there are a lot of examples of radio stations already using podcasts. And you see a lot of radio programs already going outside and getting their own life, if you want to say, like already like a spin-off into a podcast, And so you have a lot of different podcasts again coming from radios. Also because, as I was saying in the beginning, like the edition process, the hardware that is required, the software, the people, the skills from a moderator or an interview, etc. So they are really similar, and so there's a huge overlap on these. So I would say like radio stations only are like they have a lot to take advantage from podcasts. Of course, some of them might see podcasts as a threat or as an opportunity. It's always like that, right? When it's raining,
Yeah.
a lot of people complain, but then you have people selling umbrellas and making money out of it. And so uh, radio stations have a huge opportunity here for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting. And one thing that podcasts in the U.S. You tell me if this is holding true elsewhere. It's evolved as kind of a free form, open ended conversation. That's sort of what a podcast is. In some cases, if there are two hosts, it's sort of about the chemistry of the hosts together,
Hmm.
or the
Right.
chemistry of the guest with the host, particularly if the guest is a repeating guest and is on a lot. And I wonder, and also, so it goes on and on. And by the way, my podcast, you know what I'm most proud of? The Accelerator, this podcast, The Angel, we're only a half hour. So
Yeah.
in a world where every podcast is like goes past an hour, it's like
Right.
movies that just keep getting longer.
Right.
um, Bill Simmons, who I mentioned before, I mean, he's had 2 hour podcasts sometimes. Like he'll really go on and on, and I like it. I like his podcast very much, but sort of there's a limit to how much you can talk about things. So what do you from your perspective? How did personally? What did you do before this?
So just to give you just one note before that, like I agree that, and I prefer smaller or shorter podcasts. But then the 2 hours one, this gets like a new opportunity for other people to come in, which is like to find the best moments or to shorten or to like a short resume of 5, 10 minutes. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's
either written and create like a newsletter, and you already start to see with AI some people trying to do this, like from 2 hours podcast audio to try to create an article or a written newsletter, so it's short and you can consume, and within 5, 10 minutes you can read it, opposed to just listen to 2 hours or 1 hour if you listen like 2 times, right? In terms of speed. Yeah, so
yeah, that's true. You're in the business of producing shorts, right? Short versions or shorter clips or snippets.
yes.
Um, so I think that makes a lot of sense. And how do you? I mean, I know I use, and this podcast is on Riverside FM. They have some similar tools. Um, how do you compete? I mean, these tools are going to be endless, right? This is not the
Hmm.
end of it; it's the beginning. How are you
Right.
going to compete over time?
Right.
It's going to be a crowded
So
space.
for sure, that's something guaranteed, and we know within the team. So to give you an idea of how big this is and how important this is for us. So when we are talking about like gaming algorithms and looking highlights and finding highlights within gaming, we would be looking at like 5 direct competitors. But whereas like looking at talking content and podcasts and radio shows, we are looking at 10 times more, so 50 competitors easily or more. And so this happens because technology like OpenAI, like or others similar, right, that you can easily create like through no code solution, like a website with no code, and then call API from OpenAI, and then eventually you have something within hours or days. So it's not so difficult. But then once you go to more specific and you start to dive like into more specific use cases, this is where the things get more complicated. And so yeah, it's true that there are competitors that do some or parts of what we do, right? And so the way we see this over the next 6 months, it's one of two things. So the first one is, of course, there are a lot coming in, but a lot will not survive because they will not be able, they don't know how to distribute themselves, how to get users. Their runway will just finish. They will not be able to raise more money or whatever. And so they will end up. And the second thing I would see is merging and acquisition, M&A. So I'm seeing like we are at the end all fighting for the same people, and these will rise marketing costs, these will rise like retention costs. And so there might be some opportunities within the next 6 to 12 months for some of these companies to merge. Again, I don't have anything behind here. There's no strategy. It's just this is my vision, what I think it will happen, because I have seen
Nothing.
this happening on another markets. And the
Yeah,
last thing here, yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
the last thing, sorry, is just because we are so similar in terms of features, then we need to focus on specific use cases. This is what we are trying to do at FrameDrop, is trying to understand and to find some more niche use cases and not just podcasts, because at the end, like finding an highlight or a best moment on a interview podcast or a comedy podcast, it's two completely different things, because what is by definition on one podcast and the other, it's different things. So nowadays still general algorithms, but I think in the future, and we are seeing this like in 6 months, we will have specific tools for specific types of content.
Do you think you'll have specific tools for comedy, for example?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not saying that this is a specific niche that it's worth of, but let's see. If during these 30 minutes that we are here, one of us laugh. It's not like expected that every 30 seconds, every 10 seconds, we are laughing here. So if we laugh, or if we cry, or if we yell, that's a like might be a highlight. It's something outlier, right? Whereas if you are on a comedy podcast or show, like a stand-up show, and it's expected that every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, people laugh and clap and everything. So
Right.
um, by
Noise, yeah.
definition, what we are looking for and the optimization and like what you optimize your algorithm for, it's different things, right? And so you will look for different things. So here a laugh, it's really important, whereas on comedy show might just not be relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that seems like it's going to be challenging. But when you say use cases, do you mean beyond podcasts and radio?
Yes, yes. I mean, there's again, if we step back a bit, like by definition, what we can do it could be as broad as someone speaking, talking about something, and it could be a video. And if we go as general as that, then we go into other use cases like a presentation, like a TED talk, or we can go to a movie or a theater show, or I know sports, something commenting on a sport, Formula One, racing for 2 hours, and then we just get the highlights. But again, an highlight there, it's different from a comedy show, from a TV, from a radio, from a Netflix series. And so you might need to create specific algorithms for those use cases.
Well, the company is framedrop.ai. Mario Tarouca is a chief operating officer and co-founder. The company is based in Lisbon, Portugal, and has an interesting take on podcasts. And you know what? I'm going to take a look at it for this podcast. So I thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here, Mario. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, it was a pleasure. And yeah, afterwards, give me your feedback. I'm really excited to know and
I
to see
definitely
what
will. I
you.
promise I will. And I also want to thank all of you out there for listening. And remember, we'll be back with another podcast before you know it.